Hello, everyone. We are here for another CSM20 interview. Before we get into it, I just want to give a reminder for the reason that I am doing these interviews. It's partly so you, the player, can decide who to vote for the CSM20 election cycle, but it's also so that my two communities, Warm Life and Eve Rookies, can decide who is going to go on our ballots. So, without further ado, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your Eve experience and who you fly with.
Cool. So I am the Puce Moose, or Puce for short. I am a veteran player in EVE Online. I started in 2008, and I have been through being a mission runner in high sec. I went to null sec and participated in a bunch of tie-dye battles. I quit for a couple of years, and then I came back and built up a low sec PvP corporation. And since I think a year and a half ago, I've been the co-leader of the alliance Watch This, which is a sort of small mid-gang PvP alliance in low sec, currently around Placid. Yeah, that's who I
Oh,
am.
very cool. So, you've been playing for a while. Why start running for CSM now, for CSM20?
So I've been watching, I guess, observing for a very long time, and I've sort of think I've got a good idea of problem areas in the game and ways that might help to fix those. More recently, I've had some chances to speak directly to CCP devs and like hash out some of these issues, and I've thought to myself when I was doing that, well, why not do this more often and have a sort of greater effect on the game?
Awesome. So, of course, since you're running, you probably undoubtedly have a platform. Why don't you go ahead and tell us about a couple points off of it?
Yeah, so a few of the campaign points I'm running on. One of them is frequent and meaningful ship balance. So when I say meaningful, I mean a change to a ship that will bring a underused hull up into the meta. It needs to be aggressive enough to do that, and then frequent after that. Rapid updates to that hull to bring it up or down, depending on whether it's over or underperforming. CCP have committed to doing some ship balance updates recently, but they have only really committed to about twice a year, which I don't think is particularly frequent, in my opinion. Another point is some older systems reworks. So Eve being 20 years old, it has a lot of systems in it which are sort of clunky and outdated. An example of that is standings. Standings is very sort of esoteric. There's a lot of maths behind it that is quite difficult to understand for people, and there's no real way of predicting what an action is going to do to your standings. So if you go and do a mission, it's not going to let you know that this is going to drop your standings to a
Right.
mar by 2 points or whatever. That can be a big barrier to entry. I mean, especially for new players. I was talking to somebody the other day about how doing the MPE and then doing career agents reduces your standings to, for example, Guristas and Angels. So then if you want to go and sign up to Pirate Faction Warfare, you can't do that
Mm-hmm.
because you don't have the standings anymore.
Yep.
So that, to me, is silly. Things like the fact that you can entirely destroy your standings to a point where like they can't be fixed is also something that I think should be addressed. Third big one probably is sort of a PvE overhaul. PvE is very sort of static in Eve, and a lot of it hasn't been touched for a decade, like level 4 missions, any level of missions really. I would really like to see CCP give some love and attention to PvE to make it more dynamic, more sort of attention focused, so not infinitely multi-boxable.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have pointed out before that they have tried to do this with home fronts. It's sad what some of the home fronts have become, where it's just people multi-boxing them and it's not the sort of meet and greet thing that it was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think attention focused PvE, where sort of each player has a sort of a different role that is more PvP akin, I guess. So, tackle, logi, PvP. I think that is possible to do in a way that isn't multi boxable. It just needs to be properly balanced so that every pilot on that grid needs to be paying attention or they're
Right.
going to lose. Yeah. So, group PvE would be a thing I'd really like to see in the game as well.
Okay, so why don't we go ahead and just jump right into the questions about basically undocking. That is my entire platform for CSM20, getting players out in space and finding out why they're not. Why? What do you think is the biggest barrier to brand new players actually getting undocked and participating in our world, more or less?
I think for brand new players, it might be sort of, I suppose, information overload, being spoiled for choice. Once you finish the NPE and you finish those career agents, it kind of you're dropped. There's not much there. I think the next step for that is getting you into a group. CCP have sort of tried to do this with the freelance jobs. I don't particularly think the freelance jobs are a great way to do that. I agree with quite a lot of people in the faction warfare community that there should be some sort of direction for new players to move into faction warfare,
Right?
get some PvP experience, and then find a group that way. Faction warfare seems to have been intended to be like I don't want to say baby's first PvP, but the intro to PvP
The
for
bridge
newer
into it, yeah.
players. Yeah, exactly. Get them like in riskier space, get them used to losing ships because
Yep.
Eve is different to other games where it is okay to die. It's
Yep.
not the end of the game. It's not really a punishment. Get people used to that and get them introduced to people who will show them and help them find direction through the rest of the game. So
So,
yeah, lots of choice.
so you mentioned getting people into groups. What role
Yeah.
do you think fleets play in player retention?
Huge. I'd say that being able to participate in like gameplay activity with other people is probably the main retention tool for Eve. I think a lot of people who try and play solo will quickly find that it gets a bit stale and a bit boring, and it is the personalities that keep people playing Eve. That certainly has been the case for me. I think that's definitely echoed across a lot of the player base as well.
So, what kind of tools do you think CCP could give us, those of us who run our own communities, in order to get more content out to our players?
Mm. And specifically for sort of corp and alliance leaders.
Any type of community that has an in-game presence. So, I guess a corporation or an alliance.
I mean, all of the corporation alliance tools in game at the moment are clunky and confusing for alliance leaders. They overhauled the corp and alliance window recently, but I think it actually made it look better, but slightly more confusing. There's a lot of things that I would like that would help people sort of just better organize their groups. Things like sort of arbitrary hangers, for example. At the moment, a corporation only has a certain amount of divisions and a certain amount of
Yeah.
hangers that it can use. I don't really see why that has to be a thing. What you end up doing is splitting those hangers up with containers, but then you can't contract out of containers, all that sort of thing. There should be some kind of better inventory management system where you can divide up hangers. Alliance hangers, arbitrary shared hangers between players would be
Yep.
things that would be amazing. Just yeah, make organizations smoother and less sort of blockers, I suppose.
Now we're going to look at toxicity. What role do you
Yeah,
think toxicity has in keeping players from actually undocking?
quite a big one. I know there's a lot of attitude in Eve that is, HTFU, but there is also a lot of just like nasty for no reason stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've been known to goad people in local to try and start a fight, but I'm not one to, like gloat after we've had that fight or things like that. There's no reason to just be mean to people for absolutely no reason. I think it there needs to be a good feeling from undocking and doing something. If you undock, you have a fight, and then the person who won like shit talks you for 5 minutes in local,
Yeah.
that's going to feel extra bad for you. You have lost, and now you're being, ridiculed for it.
Yeah.
So that's not going to make you want to do it again. Like that's going to overcome the sort of endorphin hit and all this that you've had, and make you just sort of want to sit in station and log off. And then next time you log in, maybe you'll think, do I want to do that again? So toxicity is a big blocker, I think, for people undocking.
what do you think we can do as a community to kind of lower that toxicity and encourage people to actually come out, maybe ignore it, uh, don't open the militia window whatsoever?
Yeah. So I mean, this is a very difficult one because it's sort of governing other people's behavior, right? I mean, CCP does hand out sort of bans and things for malicious chat. I don't know whether they do it enough. I don't really have it. I tend to ignore public chat channels, um, personally. I think just generally being nicer and encouraging your court mates to be nicer is something. Um, yeah, it's a really difficult one because you
It
can't
is.
just make people behave the way that you want them to behave.
No, you really can't. Uh,
No.
what do you? What kind of activities do you feel that gets people to actually come and log in?
So I mean, for me, the big one that makes me log in, and basically the only activity I really do anymore is PvP, and specifically group PvP for me at the moment because of the group I'm in and because I like everybody in the group I'm in, and it's great to log on and relax and do some PvP and get the PvP shakes and not be relaxed anymore. But I think that could be expanded to PvE with the sort of group-based PvE that I was talking about earlier. Effectively, it is people that get people to log in. In my opinion, it is an MMO after all.
Do you think that the daily opportunities have any effect on people logging in, or is it just one of those things that, okay, it's nice to do, then you just move on with your, day to day
I
activity?
think I think they have a negative effect on people logging in my opinion, because it feels a bit like a chore. So I don't do them personally. The only opportunities I get are the jump through jumps one, really, and occasionally when I decide to do Logi and there's a repair capsuleers or whatever, I'll see it pop up and forget about it and find that I have like 50 to redeem. But for newer players, I think it gives a sort of a fear of missing out
Mm,
effect, and it makes you feel like you have to do these things. And if there is one that is, scan signatures and one that is repair capsuleers, etc., these are maybe things that I haven't trained the skills to do yet, that I don't
right.
know how to do yet, that I don't have the equipment to do yet, that I don't have the friends to do yet. Who am I going to repair? I think that sort of gives a bad feeling and sort of a feeling that you have to do these things because you need to get every opportunity to get ahead, because Eve is a hard game and a game that has existed for a long time, so there are always people ahead of you.
So now thinking about solo players, I think we're both very much fleet people. We like our friends, we like the people that we fly with. But solo players, do you think we should be encouraging them to come and fly in groups, or just kind of leave them alone and let them do their solo player thing?
I think we should encourage them to a point. Offer them to join your group, offer them to join your fleet, but don't try and force them to. Some people are solo, some people enjoy solo. I don't think there is a huge amount of enjoyable solo content. Um, you know, some people may enjoy grinding out level 4 missions, etc. I don't think most people do.
Mm-mm.
But there should be content that you can do solo, and it should be accessible. So one thing I do really like solo PvP. I've stopped doing solo PvP, and I don't have that much solo PvP on my killboard, etc., because it is so difficult and takes such a long time to
It does.
find solo PvP. Yeah, so I don't have as much time as I used to have to play the game. So I would rather play with my friends and get group PvP quicker than fly through and avoid fights for ages until I can find one that's winnable.
So, some other candidates had brought up the possibility of putting new solo content into the game, and especially framed with, okay, you're on your lunch break, you have 40 minutes. Well, that's not really enough time to get into a fleet. I mean, you're just still staging at that point. Um, so, do you feel that there should be some more things in the game other than just exploration and abyssals for, that quick 30 minutes, 40 minutes, hour bite of Eve, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, there's some things like deads and things, PvE that you can find relatively quickly and do. Um, but again, they're not particularly fun, in my opinion. They're kind of static and stale. So yeah, I would go for more PvE, perhaps. Sort of quick PvE sites that you could find. There's sort of vast swaths of space, for example, non-faction warfare low sec, where there just isn't really anything there, which would be a prime geographic area, I guess, to put new stuff. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm always for quicker content.
Cool. So we're gonna kind of touch back on toxicity again. Uh, this summer there was a little bit of eviction out in Providence, and it was the Eve community basically getting together to go after Absolute Order because of their toxic mentality and toxic ways. But it was very interesting to see because it was almost like, say, an MPSI eviction. We had actual
Yep.
MPSIers out there. We had the small gangs going out there. We had Frat. We had Init. And I'm sure that Goons and Horde were out there as well to basically say, we don't like this type of thing. What is your opinion on that? Do you think it was a good thing, bad thing? It was just content?
Um, I personally think it was a good thing, but with some downside. So I think it can be a bit ostracizing to some of the people who are in Absolute Order who aren't these toxic individuals. I do think Absolute Order as a whole is not a particularly good thing for Eve, especially some of the views of the leadership, which they quite openly express. And I think that if you're in Absolute Order, you should probably leave. There seems to be a sort of, I don't know, mentality that if you're in Absolute Order and you leave, nobody else is going to want you. That is entirely not true. And I think the behavior that Absolute Order has of hoovering up new players to the game immediately and getting them into this group and giving them that mentality is overall harmful for the game. So, yeah, I think that they have reaped what they've sown, I suppose,
Yep.
in AO. Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and jump into some CSM specific questions. And the first one is, if you get on the CSM and CCP were to ask you for one quality of life uh, feature that they could just put in the game tomorrow, what would you ask for?
Ooh. Hmm.
And it could be something you personally want or something for your community, the greater good of
So
Eve.
I think for everybody, some people may not have experienced the need for this yet, is automatic settings backups. Um, so I don't know if you've experienced when your
Yes,
client crashes and you log back in and all of your windows are reset to default. And if you haven't done a manual copy paste of the files, you're kind of
yes.
screwed. That should be something that is included in the game or in the launcher to just back up your settings and have them stored. They could be stored locally in a different area, or they could be stored on CCP server and just restore from those settings and restore those settings across multiple accounts. I think that is something that would be hugely useful.
I think,
And then,
yeah, I definitely think
go on.
anyone who has experienced this would find you, just bow down and, thank you.
It is so soul destroying when it happens.
It is. So you were going to
But
say another one?
yeah, another one which I think is prevalent because of the recent patch or expansion note sort of announcement that was just released is the LP ledger, which has been
Mm.
asked for incessantly
Hmm.
for a couple of months, and they decided to put a Plex one in, but not an LP one. So I would say please copy paste that code and put LP in instead.
Indeed. I can't believe that they just ignored that.
I'm sure they know about it. I'm sure they started on the Plex ledger before that was a thing, but to release the Plex one
Mm.
without the LP one is they must have known that was going to cause a bit of upset.
We'll give them the benefit of the doubt this time. So, if you make it onto the CSM, what other types of candidates or candidate types do you want to work with?
Um, I would certainly like to work with people who know more about the economy and industry. I mean, for example, I think the Oz is quite likely to get on there, because that is not an area that I have a huge amount of
Hmm.
experience in, and there are some changes that I would like to make that would probably impact on the economy, and I would prefer to know what the impacts of those were before I sort of said, "Hey, do this," and then crashed the economy or something. So a more economy and industry minded player, I think, would be great. And just yeah, uh, more sort of PvP people. Somebody who has good new player connections like yourself would be great. Because as a person who's been playing since 2008, that isn't an area that I have, you know, current experience in. I'm trying to get my girlfriend to start playing the game, and I'll watch her do the NPE, but I haven't been successful in that yet.
But just tell her there's a wonderful group out there that likes to take brand new players by the hand and teach them.
Yeah, send her into Eve Rookies.
Absolutely. Uh, what do you think your approach is going to be to showing player support? So we have Oz who does his poll once a year. We have Mick with his Wormhole University. Uh, Young Puke who is literally everywhere. What do you think your approach is going to be?
To sort of communicating with the player
Yeah,
base.
yeah, and
Yeah,
taking that back to CCP and gathering up the evidence and showing them that hey, we have support for this.
yeah. So I mean, I think Puke has the right idea of being everywhere and seems to have boundless energy. I would take a page out of his book. I think he runs several sort of focus group discords. I think that's a great way to do it, as well as being present in as many places as possible.
Mhm.
I'd also maybe sort of like to. I know it's difficult with NDAs to give sort of a, I don't know, monthly update, whether that's a video or a post or something that says, we've had this many meetings. I have presented this sort of stuff to CCP.
Mhm.
This is how I feel about it currently. Because I think something that is missing from the CSM at the moment as a whole is an indication of the engagement between CCP and the
Right.
CSM. I think it's quite easy to just think that they're not talking, they're not doing anything, and that CSM is just there for like a free trip to Iceland, which I don't think is true, but I can understand why some people might feel that way.
Indeed. So, if you have a player approach you with a completely crazy idea that you're sitting there going, I'm not going to present this to CCP because they're going to laugh me right out of the room. How are you going to deal with that player?
I mean, I will hear out any idea. I would ask the person to explain it further. I'd talk to them about it. I'd probably invite them to like a voice call because I find it a lot easier to hash things out over voice. Sort of explain why they think that would be a good idea. If there's any sort of details that don't jump out at first that would make it a better idea, and then I would be gentle, of course. If it is a terrible idea, I'd say this isn't the sort of thing that I think is viable for Eve at the moment because of X, Y, Z. I think it's important to give people actual, understandable, and measurable feedback on ideas rather than just saying no, go away, you're done. Um, that goes back into the toxicity bit as well. There's no
Oh yeah.
reason to be mean for no reason.
So, kind of along the same line, players think that the CSM are that our job is kind of march into the CCP's office and tell them how it's going to be,
Yeah.
and make demands. How do you think you're going to handle it when players, especially like on Reddit, are saying that you're not being effective as a CSM because you're not telling them what to do?
People are entitled to their opinions. I would continue as I'm open to take feedback, but there is sort of a sort of I don't know viciousness sometimes towards CSM if
There
things don't
is.
go as people want. But I think you just have to have a thick skin and continue doing the best you can. Really,
So you made it onto the CSM. So congratulations. And
yay.
your very first meeting, or maybe the second meeting, it really depends on how CCP is rolling at the time. You may find out what you're doing for the next year. So at a high level, you'll
Yep.
find out the next expansion is coming up, maybe the next two expansions, and maybe even into the future. But you find out that nothing that they are planning to do is going to touch low sec, PvP, or anything that you really have a lot of experience with. How do you think that you're going to be an effective CSM at that point?
I mean, I've got quite a wide range of experience across the game, so I think there would hopefully be at least something that I can have input into. But I mean, I am not. They are the game designers. They direct the direction of the game. Um, so I think I would figure out what areas of the game they are looking into, and I would go and do those areas of the game, and I would become an expert in them. Um, that is something that I am always sort of happy to do and excited to do, is go out to the player base, and if you have a niche area of the game that you like to play, or if there's something that you want me to experience, I would love to have you take me and show me that thing and teach me about it, because I am sort of a practical learner personally. So yeah, I'd learn about it, I guess.
So then you find out, you go to a meeting and you're told you're going to meet with the dev team. And you find out that they're suddenly going to do something absolutely atrocious. Maybe in your case, they're going to remove low sec completely from the game. This is what your community is built on. How do you think you're going to react to CCP? And how do you think you're going to carry on not spilling the beans to your community?
So okay, similar to the one of whether a player has a terrible idea, hear them out about why they want to do it, and then kindly and gently explain to them why that is a terrible idea. I think if it were such a terrible idea as removing low sec, most of the CSM would not be on board with that. So discussing with my fellow CSMs on how to put this to CCP as a group, so you have, you know, moral support and a unified front to say, please don't do this. As for not leaking it, just don't. You're going to cause more of a problem, I think, in that case than what you are going to solve. It's better to sort of uh, gently and positively bring people around to your point rather than cause a whole load of a furore.
So, last question of this line is, there has been a problem that the CSM have been working on for years now. I know I dealt with it in CSM18. I know 17 was dealing with it, probably the several before, and it's going to be going into the future projection.
Yep.
So, CCP has put a few um, solutions into the game to help with projection. Do you feel that this is now solved and CSM20 gets to move on and, go create new things and be happy go lucky? Or do you think that this is going to be something that's going to have to be brought up because it's not fixed?
It is definitely not fixed, and it definitely has to be continually brought up because I think it is probably the largest issue in the game overall. Whether it doesn't feel like it to some groups, it has such a huge knock-on effect across the game that it needs to be solved in order to make other problems more addressable. It's definitely something that I have strong opinions on. I stood up at FanFest 25 and I asked CCP directly, it's been 5 years since this conversation has been ongoing. Why hasn't anything been done? They gave me some quite dissatisfactory, in my opinion, answers. And that is, in fact, one of the reasons why I am now running for CSM. I think it's important to continue to uh, remind them of these issues with a strong voice, but calmly. There is no point in yelling at them. I think it makes them do less if you start yelling at them and calling them names. But yeah, projection needs to continue to be worked upon.
Okay. Last question, promise. What can you do that no other of the 55 CSM that are running this year can do?
That's a great question. Um, I think I am uniquely placed to sort of present CCP with data-driven responses to issues and presenting data-driven issues to CCP. I am a scientist in real life, so I do this day to day. I'm used to communicating with people. I'm used to debating people who have, who have a direction that they want to go, and you may think, that's not the best option. So I think I bring all of that to CSM. I think I'm a decent communicator. I think I'm confident, and I think I have a clear view of the game and the issues that it's currently facing.
Okay, so final thoughts. Why should players vote for you, and why should my communities put you on our ballots?
I think players should vote for me if they are looking for a more vibrant EVE Online and for an EVE Online that is brought up in many areas into a more modern game. I think players should vote for me if they are looking for somebody who is fiercely independent, being in a tiny alliance, I'm not beholden to anybody, is willing to ask hard questions in a nice way, and is willing to admit when they're wrong as well. Because if you can prove to me that one of my opinions that I have is incorrect, I will, as graciously as I can, accept that, because I think it is very important to be able to do that on CSM. Yeah,
So
that's
if
me.
if somebody is watching this interview and decide they want to carry on discussion about one of the topics, how can they reach you?
Best way to reach me, as with probably every single CSM candidate, is on Discord. My name on Discord is PuceMoose, all one word. I do have a Discord server. The link for that will be in my CSM forum post, so you can find me in there as well. Or email me, come and shoot me in game. I've had that happen already, and I had some quite productive conversations through there. That is ThePuce, one word, and then space moose in game.
Okay, I do have one final question. How did you come up
Okay.
with your username, your character name?
I've always been called the Puce Moose. I think my sister came up with it when I was like 4 years old, and I've just used it for everything since. Um, yeah, just a good rhyme.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming in and interviewing, and best of luck with your campaign.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for having me.